That grin thing that he does in like the first opening scene of the movie, I think that was day 3 of shooting. The first shot that's in the movie, which is like a push in down the line, that shot actually goes even further, right? So it actually pushes all the way down and then wraps around and ends up in that close-up. They cut it up, but like the actual shot is a one-shot thing that goes all the way around. And then he's doing this thing and he does it and like this tear of his makeup falls down. I went, that's pretty awesome. Like just that accidental thing that happened. Those kind of things happened all the time because again, when you're not rehearsing or you're shooting everything for the first time, we're witnessing it for the first time too. So it's just as exciting for me. I feel like it's more of a character study, like a 70s movie, like Our Taxi Driver or The Master or Phantom Thread or something where you're just really going inside characters. That was the main expression right away was, it's gonna be that kind of movie. We'll go make that and see if people dig it, you know, and they seem to be digging it. He sent me this script because he was very excited about it and he's like, I think I came up with a pretty cool idea of like how to make a comic book movie that's not a comic book movie, that is just really outside of the box of what people are doing, but it could like be something really cool. And he sent it to me and I read it and he's like, you want to shoot this? I'm like, yeah, man, of course I do. This is awesome. You know, it's interesting. Todd's way of improvisation is different than maybe some like comedic directors. Like there's improvisation where you just let the camera roll and you just try things. And so like you might try 6 versions of the same line, or the director might be yelling over there, like, try that line, and it works great. Like there's very successful comedies like that. Todd's not like that at all. So any improvisation with Todd comes from working the scene out. So it's not like the scenes are improv, it's more a function of, let's work the scene out in a master often, right? So we'll work it out and we'll maybe run the master more takes than we run anything else, just to work the scene out. And in there, we'll experiment with different things. The actors will try things, Zach will throw something in, but it's less improvisational than I think people would think. You end up discovering moments maybe in the beginning of the scene just because you're trying to find something. So suddenly it might be his legs shaking, you know, or something like that. That ends up in the movie because we're gonna search for something before the moment that the shot is actually for. And so you find all kinds of wonderful things when you run the scene top to bottom, you know? It's sometimes harder on the actors, particularly somebody like Joaquin who's doing some really powerful stuff.
All I have are negative thoughts.
But he ended up digging it too. Like I'd roll the camera all the time without him like knowing, but he would know and he loved it. So whether it was him lighting a cigarette or preparing his journal or anything like that, the minute he stepped on the set, there was a possibility we were already rolling. And I remember one time I missed something he did because I just didn't see it. And he's like, oh, man, I thought we're always rolling. And I'm like, I was rolling, I just didn't see you do it. Anytime we were there, it's like, we're working, so let's go, yeah. One of the reasons we shot large format and those kind of things was simply because we wanted just to draw the audience in psychologically to this character and feel empathy and really feel this transition that he was going through and his descent into chaos and madness. And so for me as a cinematographer, it's just how can we give him as much freedom as possible? And so that came in the form of not necessarily ever rehearsing really so much, so we wanted everything to feel really fresh, particularly for Joaquin. So when we saw it, we were seeing it for the first time. He was performing it for the first time. We wanted everything that he did to be captured, right? So we didn't want to waste anything by just sort of running through the motions on a rehearsal. And then give him as much freedom to not worry about marks or think about technical aspects of the filmmaking. And that came in the form of a lot of different techniques. You know, it's not like the movie was all handheld. We did a lot of handheld, but we also did dollies and did static compositional things. So we tried to use all of the filmmaking techniques, but all the while give Joaquin the flexibility that if he came up with an idea or Todd came up with an idea, even if we had a plan, we'd throw it all away and just say, let's do that. Like, we're very into shot lists. We make shot lists. So we have like a specific thing of like, okay, we know we're gonna travel with him as he runs with the kids. We're gonna have a lateral shot just because we're trying to figure out what equipment we're gonna need, right? So, okay, we're gonna be on grip tricks with a stabilized head and we're gonna get 2 sizes of him traveling and then long lens of him running at us and following him, you know, with grip tricks sort of behind him and that kind of stuff. So it's more like, okay, those are the pieces we need to get him to the alley. And then in the alley, we're gonna sort of follow and lead him and then eventually we're gonna pull out at the end. So we write all that out in shot list, but not so much storyboard, you know? That's not really part of our thing. And certainly things like the subway killing wasn't storyboarded or anything at all, because we knew that effectively, in the same way as we do a lot of things, is the bigger issue was like setting up this subway car on stage and providing all those lighting cues and having the ability to like make it feel like the car was moving. So we would just run it as a master every single time, you know? And like if we got a good take with him in the foreground of them coming at us, then maybe we would do one on a longer lens, and then we'd flip around and we just do some very simple coverage. It's not a lot of takes in there. And so it's really, and it's not something we would ever storyboard. Todd came to us one day and said, you know, feels like this movie is a lot about a man who's also probably not slept. It's like insomnia. Arthur's character has probably not slept this entire movie. So what would happen? Like, what would he be doing in the middle of the night? So he's like, just set up 2 cameras in the kitchen. Joaquin's gonna do something. Who knows what he's gonna do? You know, and like the second take, he just climbed in the fridge. And I like took my eye off the eyepiece and just like leaned over like, did he just go in the fridge? I think he just went inside the fridge. I don't know if that'll make the movie, but that is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. It was a deleted scene in so much as obviously it wasn't in the movie, but it wasn't so much her fate. It's just, I think like people wonder because of the way that is cut and the way that like he's in her apartment, and then there's like very strong music cue and him walking and then laughing, and usually laughing is something when he's stressed and so yes, there's no question when the cut is now, it feels very much like, oh my God, did he kill her? But Todd has mentioned this, and I know because we actually shot scenes of her alive like after, that like in our minds, no, he didn't kill her, she's still alive. He's had no reason to kill her, right? Like this was in his mind, this relationship that he had with her, but she hasn't like aggrieved him. She hasn't done something that's worthy of him killing her. We actually like Joker. So I think we were like, no, he didn't kill her. It's like, don't worry about it. Because I think we were trying to defend him to some extent, yeah. We definitely want people to have their own opinions as to what the reality of certain things is in the movie and what's fantasy and what's real. And the Joker has always been in the comic book history sort of an unreliable narrator. So even when he tells you something, it's not necessarily the truth. And since so much of this is in his mind, there's an argument that could be had that there's a lot of it that may not be real. This felt like exactly what to me would be the reality, right? Which is it's a government building of sorts. So it's a white corridor, and it's on stage. We built that set, and we put the window light through there, and then there's a window at the far end of the hallway, and there's a 20K, right? And as he's walking, it's just ever slowly dimming up and getting warmer and warmer, like sunlight. So it's like there's not a lot of sunlight in the movie. There's like, one of the few times there's sunlight is when he's dancing on the stairs. There's like warm sunlight. It's almost the most romantic thing because it's like a celebration for him. He's now the Joker fully, and he's like celebrating it. And that's similar at the end shot. Almost romantically, like walking off into the sunset, but in the most bonkers way with like bloody footprints and him being chased by like guards as he's trying to escape, yeah. So it's this like combination of like what is effectively like almost a stylized romantic final shot, but in a very sort of odd juxtaposition, you know? I'm not a comic book guy, and I purposely didn't watch any of the other movies. Of course, I was familiar like with the Nolan versions and the original Tim Burton Batman, but they were more just, I know the movies because I watched them when they came out and I'm a fan of them. But definitely wasn't like looking at them and going, oh, how do we do this different? It was more like, let's do our thing. I think the production designer in the van had like The Killing Joke. It was like the graphic novel. And I just flipped through it, I don't even know, 20 pages worth. And I just remember like the images were super evocative, like really emotional images. Like they just really struck me. I don't remember any singular image. I just remember the artwork was really graphic and it was really like compositional and it was beautiful. And I think it stuck with me throughout the making of the movie that we're not necessarily making a comic book movie, but that idea of what comic books are, which is like single frames that tell a story, I was very interested in. And so I think it was conscious in my mind throughout the movie of every day, like let's make some very specific imagery in this movie as almost a still frame, so that if you took just still frames of the movie and you flip through it, could maybe feel like a graphic novel. Even if you try to then find beauty and composition and things that are like not just presenting it like a documentary. We're not trying to make that. But I like when it starts from a place of feeling real. That's my philosophy every single time, is just how do we make it feel real and then make it feel a little better than that, And that can be done in a lot of ways, whether it's through color of the light or composition or camera movement, is like to then elevate it so you're starting to have like a very specific point of view and you're not just like laying so far back that you're just not presenting, you're not doing the job of a filmmaker, which is to point the audience towards a certain direction,